A warm welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos, and at least 11 people have been killed in a Russian missile attack on the central Ukrainian city of Kyiv. According to the city's mayor, Alexander Vilko, on the Telegram messaging app, the rescue operation continues and dozens have also been wounded. Ukrainian officials had said earlier on Tuesday that 3 people had been killed and many more were trapped under the rubble of a 5-story apartment building. And the early hours of today, air defense systems were engaged to repel Russian air attacks on the Kyiv region. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has been reacting to the Russian missiles hitting civilian buildings in the city, which happens to be his hometown, overnight. According to the president, Russian killers continue their war against residential buildings, ordinary cities and people. He also sent his condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones, adding that terrorists will never be forgiven. Meanwhile, he says despite rain and fierce fighting, his forces are making progress on the battlefield and inflicting necessary losses.
The
battles are fierce, but our movement is on the way, and that is crucial. The enemy's losses are exactly what we need. And although the weather these days is unfavorable, the rains complicate our task. Nevertheless, the strength of our soldiers yield results. And I'm grateful to each and everyone who is currently in combat, to everyone who supports our combat brigades in the respective directions. General Syrsky and Tarnowski reported today on the successes we've already achieved, on the points along the front where we need reinforcement, and on the actions we can take to break more Russian positions. I thank our guys for every Ukrainian flag that is now returning to its rightful place in the villages of the recently liberated territory. I am also grateful for the significant replenishment of our exchange fund.
Головкома по загальній ситуації Міністерства внутрішніх справ, Служба безпеки щодо стабілізаційних заходів на деокупованих територіях дуже активно працюємо.
A state of emergency has been introduced in the area where 2 fuel tankers collided on the Lena River in southeastern Russia's Irkutsk region, damaging a container and spilling gasoline into the water. That's according to the region's governor. The damaged container was carrying 138 metric tons of gasoline. The governor, Igor Kobzev, said on the messaging app Telegram that authorities were trying to clarify how much ended up in the Lena. The collision took place late Monday, the 12th of June. The Lena River, the world's 11th longest, originates near Lake Baikal, that's in the Irkutsk region in southeastern Siberia, and flows into the Arctic Ocean. And for the time being, Ukraine says it retook 7 villages and made small gains in a tough counter-offensive against Russian forces that France said could last months. In his regular evening video message last night, the president said that Ukrainian forces were increasing control in the area around Bakhmut. He said he was particularly grateful for the progress being made near the eastern city. Bakhmut is known as the site of the longest and possibly bloodiest battles in the war. The United States says it is too soon to say exactly where Ukraine's counteroffensive is going, but Washington is confident that Kyiv will continue to have success in trying to take back its lands seized by Russia. Speaking at a press conference in Washington, the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said the U.S. was determined to maximize its support for Ukraine so it can succeed on the battlefield. A robust package of political and practical support for Ukraine, Blinken added, can also be expected at the upcoming NATO summit in Vilnius.
On the counteroffensive, these are, of course, early days, so much too soon to say exactly where this is going. But I think it's important to note that as a result of more than 50 countries coming together in support of Ukraine, and particularly the courage and tenacity of Ukraine's military and its people, we're confident that they will continue to have success in what they're trying to achieve, which is to take back the land that's been seized from them by Russia. We both want Italy, the United States, fact, the Ukrainian people more than anyone want peace, but it needs to be a just and durable peace. And by just, we mean a peace that basically reflects the principles of the United Nations Charter, including on territorial integrity and sovereignty. And by durable, we mean a peace that doesn't simply leave things in a place where Russia can rest, rearm, and reattack 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later. So this is what we're working toward. Ukraine's success in the counteroffensive would do two things. It would strengthen its position at any negotiating table that emerges, and it may have the effect as well of actually causing Putin to finally focus on negotiating an end to the war that he started. We'll continue to maximize our support to Ukraine now so that it can have success on the battlefield, but also our enduring support is critical. Support for Ukraine so that it can build up over time a strong deterrent and defense capacity for its military, so that in the future, if Russia tries to pursue another aggression, it has the chance to deter that and, if necessarily, effectively defend against it, but also to support its economy, to support its integration with the European Union, where Italy is a leading voice, and of course the ongoing process of democratic reform. I think, without getting ahead of ourselves, I think what you can expect to see at the NATO summit is a robust package of both political and practical support for Ukraine going forward.
Well, speaking of NATO, the largest air deployment exercise in its history has started in Germany, with around 2,000 flights to be carried out over the North and Baltic Seas. According to the German Air Force, the exercise will involve 25 nations, 250 aircraft and almost 10,000 servicemen over the coming days. Even during peacetime, it hosts more than 35,000 US troops. The Air Force's Chief of Staff, Ingo Gerhardt, pointed out at an airbase in Winsdorf that the so-called Air Defender 2023 was to demonstrate the defense's capability of the alliance, but it was not directed against any particular nation, despite widespread NATO support for Ukraine in its ongoing conflict with neighboring Russia.
We've been doing this for a long time. We've been working with our NATO partners many times, and we're going to continue to do so with regard to anything that happens in the world.
I mean, it's a logistical challenge, and logistics are a huge part of any operation. And so we basically would take larger aircraft, like a C-17, would fly the equipment into here, and then from here we would distribute it out on the smaller, more tactical aircraft, like the C-130.
We need to make sure that we're having these strong relationships for the future, and to be able to build all these connections with all these other states that are here, all the other NATO countries that are represented as well. It's a huge moment in history, the largest NATO exercise, and we're just humbled and really happy to be a part of it.
All NATO allies, the Netherlands and Denmark, are leading the international coalition to train pilots and support staff, also maintain aircraft and ultimately supply the F-16s to Ukraine, F-16s. According to the Dutch Defense Minister, Kajsa Ollongren, Ukrainian pilots begin training to fly US-manufactured F-16 fighter jets this summer, a first step towards supplying Kyiv with a powerful long-term capability in its war with Russia. Previously, the Netherlands had said it aimed to start training Ukrainian pilots as soon as possible, but had stopped short of specifying when such training could get underway. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he is concerned that Russia will, on the 17th of July, quit a deal allowing the safe wartime export of grain and fertilizers from 3 Ukrainian Black Sea ports. Moscow has been threatening to walk away from the deal, known as the Black Sea Grain Initiative, brokered by the United Nations and Turkey in July last year, if obstacles to its own grain and fertilizer shipments are not removed.
How concerned are you that Russia will quit the Black Sea grain deal next month? And on the use of drones in Ukraine, the US and others have accused Iran of supplying Russia with drones for use in Ukraine. Your report on the implementation of Resolution 2231 is due to go to the Council shortly. What has that determined regarding the wreckage of drones found in Ukraine? Where were they made? Who sent them? Did you send experts to inspect them?
First of all, I am concerned, and we are working hard in order to make sure that it will be possible to maintain the Black Sea Initiative and at the same time that we are able to go on in our work to facilitate Russian exports. We will be making our report following strictly the norms that were established in the resolution for the elaboration of the reports.
Sweden's foreign minister says in Warsaw his government ruled nothing out when it came to supporting Ukraine to win a decisive victory on the battlefield against the invasion. According to Poland's foreign minister, he says the two countries want to see EU accession negotiations begin for Ukraine as well as Moldova by the end of the year, and for Georgia to become a candidate country. Rao also levelled criticism at the EU's newly agreed migration deal, which Poland opposed, saying it affected countries' ability to democratically determine their futures.
As my Prime Minister has already said, and I repeat it here and now, we do not rule out any kind of help towards Ukraine in the future. Not any kind. We have to stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes until they have won a victory, a decisive victory in the battlefield against Russia, which is the only way of ending this war. Re-establishing the territorial integrity of Ukraine, which is, after all, what this war is all about. Territorial integrity and state sovereignty, and territorial integrity means all areas, including Crimea, just to make that absolutely clear. As for sanctions, well, we are now in our capability as capacity, as presidency of the European Union, involved in the project of bringing forward the 11th sanctions package, which I hope we will be able to deliver before the next meeting of the Foreign Affairs Council. I think that this sanctions package, along with the others, are not only about bringing forward new sanctions, but also plugging the loopholes and preventing the circumvention of the already existing sanctions, which also is an important thing.
Nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi left for Ukraine ahead of a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In a Twitter post, Mr. Grossi said he would present Kyiv with an assistance program following the Nova Kakhovka Dam flooding in the south of Ukraine. Mr. Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and his team of investigators are also set to travel to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to assess the situation and safety of the plant.